Yeah, so I think if anybody's listening and they think that that might apply to them, then they should really just try that themselves and just, get 12 people who are their customers, invite them to come to their office or go to where these people are, whether it's setting up a stand in a shopping mall or in a business center, and just having people come. You may need to give them some incentive, you may need to give them some discount, or you may need to give them some products, some gifts or something, but you ask them to come and speak to you. They say, would you mind if I ask you one question? And video you, and it's kind of like 2 or 3 minutes. And most people don't want to fill out an anketa because most people don't want to be interrogated. I mean, think about when you're on the internet and a window pops up and says, will you take 2 minutes to fill our questionnaire? What do? No. You close it, yeah? And 99% of people close it. But if I came to you, Ruth, and said, kind of, can you tell me about a moment, if you're in a bank, for example, I'm using the bank as an example because it's top of the mind for me. But if you're in a bank and I came up to you, Ruth, and said, Ruth, could you tell me about a positive or negative experience you've had with our bank? And that's the only question. That's interviewing you. I'm asking you about your experience. Yeah, I'm not asking you to say yes or no to 20 questions that are relevant for me and not relevant for you. I'm making the question relevant for you. And if you think about it, so yeah, I will give you a 2-minute interview, and I don't interrupt. I don't say anything. I just interview you. And at the end of that, I may say, is this a positive or a negative story? When did it happen? Where did it happen? Yeah. And that's it. I've got the data about you, your gender, your age. So I've got quite rich data, so I can filter it and say, show me negative stories from women in this region who are talking about this branch or talking about this part of our operations. And once you've got these different videos, you can start to build up a library of show me the negative stories and tell me what do we need to stop doing. Show me the positive stories and tell me what we need to do more of. And once you start to build up that, you start to see, do we understand our customers? Are we aware of our customers? And the work I do is confidential, but I'm not going to mention the bank's name, but I can talk at a very high level. We went into this bank because the management thought that there were problems with customers, and those problems the customers were having were with the staff. And when we went in there, we got these stories from customers, we got these stories from the staff, and it found out that the customers loved the staff, and the staff had the same problems that the customers had, but it was management that was not seeing it. And so what you want to do, that's when you want to be getting on the front line. And if you're a leader, and I've been a general manager myself for a decade, the higher up the hierarchy you go, the further you are away from customers. And the less you understand what customers need. So you really want to get in touch with customers, but listen to the customers in their own words, and have that video with your team sitting around and looking at it and seeing what kind of innovative new insights you come out with. Because it could only just be one thing, but that one thing could change everything. Because if you're playing to win on the market, you win by discovering something new that others are not doing. You win by discovering a need that your users have that everybody's ignoring. And if you can find that first, then you can do something and gain an advantage over your rivals. And of course, you have to keep doing that. But that's what the best organizations do. They have a way of being able to not just do something once, but to do it consistently. And as I said, the golden principle would be focus on user needs, because that gets you out of the internal battles inside your organization, gets your head out of the spreadsheets, and it gets you looking at what matters, which is your users.